with in the past, needless to say.
Eric, I grew up in the Deep South. We used to use a phrase there that was something like this: there is no education in the second kick of a mule. Now, Iran has been kicked twice by the mule and kicked hard. You would think they might have learned something by now, that maybe it would start getting through to them that President Trump is not Obama and he's not Biden. That he says what he means what he says. If he says he's going to do something, you better stand back and watch it happen. And he's made it very clear: no nuclear weapon, no enrichment, and you're going to have to start acting like civilized people. Now, twice the U.S. military has been sent by President Trump to give the kick of the mule. Yeah. If it's a third kick of the mule, you just wonder what's wrong with these people. Are they that stubborn? Or is it their religious fanaticism is so intense, which is what I think it is, that they don't mind being martyrs. They just don't want to recognize that they're wrong. And that puts the Iranian people in a very, very bad place, because the Iranian regime is willing to sacrifice the entirety of the nation just for their religious fanaticism. It's really wicked and evil.
Truly, and the Iranian people are really the main victims of this wicked regime. It's a death cult at the end of the day. Ambassador, about a minute left, then we'll bring you right back. You're in Israel, of course, Jerusalem as our top diplomat. And Israel right now is on high alert. There's concerns that Iran may try to broaden this war and target Israel. What's the sense you get on the ground right now, the level of concern in Israel?
I think people are certainly preparing. They're knowing that this could happen. But I'll tell you something that you well know, Eric. You've been here so many times. You know the region well. Israeli people are the most resilient people on earth. No matter who comes against them and how hard that they're hit, they are not giving up the land God gave them 3,800 years ago. Not going to happen. And they will fight and they will defend. As Prime Minister Netanyahu said, if we run out of bullets and bombs, we will scratch with our fingernails till the last man. And that's exactly where they are. So are they preparing? Yes. Do they hope it doesn't happen? Of course. Yeah. But they're also fully prepared to engage if that's what it takes.
Yeah, love that quote from Prime Minister Netanyahu. It truly is an existential struggle. He gets it. So does Ambassador Mike Huckabee. More with the ambassador after the break. Could we see peace between Israel and Lebanon with Hezbollah's influence blunted there? Is it possible? Plus, the U.S. and Saudi Arabia coming to a new deal you were going to want to hear about, and much more with Ambassador Mike Huckabee after the break. Stick around. Hey, TBN family, to Stack Back tonight. We're talking to the U.S. Ambassador to Israel, our good friend Mike Huckabee. Ambassador, great meeting this week, earlier this week, between the Lebanese President Joseph Aoun and President Trump, and a lot of rumblings here in a positive way of Lebanon joining the Abraham Accords with Israel, perhaps. But Hezbollah, of course, is kind of the elephant in the room there. How much progress do we see towards blunting and negating Hezbollah's influence in Lebanon? Is it possible for Hezbollah, again, to be kind of pushed out of the picture and to have peace between Israel and Lebanon? It certainly feels like the negotiations are bearing fruit, and we're moving slowly, at least, in that direction.
Absolutely, Eric. It's very much a historic moment. I was back in D.C. 5 different times during the course of the peace talks with Lebanon. We had the United States, Lebanon, and Israel all in the same room. That alone was historic, because since 1955, the Lebanese are not supposed to have anything to do with the Israelis or even be in the same room with them. They were more than in the same room. We were having very open, very thoughtful, warm conversations that brought about the signing of an agreement that said basically that Lebanon and Israel are not at war with each other. This was historic in itself. When the Lebanese recognized Israel is not their enemy, and Israel admitted Lebanon is not our enemy. They have a common enemy, Hezbollah, a terror organization that has killed thousands of Americans. That alone was the beginning of the real breakthrough. President Aoun's visit to the President of the United States this week, that's also historic. I'll be the first to tell you, this is a fragile process, and the whole idea is built on Hezbollah being moved out of areas so that the Lebanese armed forces, the legitimate army of Lebanon, can move in and begin to take control. It's not going to be a flip the switch all at once. It's going to be incremental as the LAF is capable of taking the defense of their own country and pushing Hezbollah out. Israel will only vacate areas where there's going to be security provided by the LAF. They will not allow Hezbollah to continue to rain down death upon the people living in the northern part of Israel.
Yeah, it truly is a new day, and the possibilities are endless for the region. Once that Iranian axis is defeated, all sorts of possibilities open up. And Ambassador, I should have mentioned that you have been intimately involved in those negotiations with Lebanon. Saudi Arabia is another great possibility. Today, President Trump posted on social media that, yes, the United States and Saudi Arabia are agreeing to a civil nuclear deal, but he said it's totally contingent on Saudi Arabia joining the Abraham Accords and normalizing relations with Israel. Can you tell us anything more about that?
Well, only what we've all read in open press that is available for public consumption. But, I mean, I think the significance is that President Trump recognizes that a peaceful Middle East is a peaceful world. And that when those countries that have had adversarial relationships recognize they're better off with normalization, they're better off working in concert. The UAE has certainly benefited from its relationship with Israel, being the first member of the Abraham Accords. You would think that the other countries in the Gulf region would look at that and say, you know, Israel isn't our enemy. They don't want to take our land. They just want theirs. They're not interested in bombing us. They're interested in making sure people don't bomb them. And they have extraordinary resources in agriculture, technology, military hardware, and defense. And normalizing a relationship brings all of those opportunities to both countries.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, a new day. It's all there. Once Iran and Hezbollah, Hamas, etc., the Houthis, they're another player here. Once they are weakened severely and out of the picture, the possibilities are endless. Speaking of the Houthis, Saudi Arabia, Ambassador, the Houthis are now announcing this week a naval blockade of all Saudi shipping through the Red Sea. The Bab al-Mandeb Strait, in particular, that crucial waterway. Now the Houthis are attacking Saudi shipping. President Trump threatened the Houthis today. Could we see a new front? I guess that's a concern. And Secretary Rubio talked about earlier today as well. A concern right now is that the Houthis, at the behest of their Iranian masters, will try to open a new front in the Bab al-Mandeb Strait. The good news is President Trump has made very clear he'll hold not only the Houthis, but the regime accountable if that does happen.
Eric, you just pointed out something that I hope your audience really takes to heart, because what you've said is what a lot of Americans don't understand. And that is that as long as Iran has any money at all and any military capacity, it's going to keep feeding its proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. If we can step on the oxygen hose that comes from Tehran and cut off the supplies, both financially and militarily, to the proxies, then you really are going to see the capacity to see greater levels of peace, not just in Lebanon, but throughout the Middle East and the world. Most people don't understand that Hezbollah is not limited to Lebanon. They're already established in 12 Western Hemisphere countries, mostly in Central and South America. Eric, these proxies, they're not setting up in the Western Hemisphere because they really want to deal with Venezuela. They're doing it because they want to carry out the Iranian death wish, death to America.
Yeah, no doubt. These proxies are lethal. They're in our hemisphere, as you said, Ambassador. Hey, last question, about a minute left. We'll bring you right back. President Trump, Prime Minister Netanyahu, a lot of rumblings here in the Western media that there's tension, friction in the relationship. You see them up close. You've been a part of the meetings between these two leaders. Prime Minister Netanyahu may be in D.C. next week for Lindsey Graham's funeral. President Trump said if he is, we'll likely meet. About a minute left. Can you just talk about the continued closeness of that relationship and how they very much are on the same page? No one agrees on everything, but by and large, the president and the prime minister see things the same way. At least it seems to me.
I think you're right, Eric, and many people miss this whole point. They have a very close relationship, not only professionally and from a policy standpoint, but on a personal level. They genuinely like each other. They have respect for each other. When they're together, it's very obvious that there is a warm and hospitable relationship between the two of them. I would say beyond just the two leaders, and that's significant, people have no idea just how close we are in terms of cooperating in intelligence and in military areas. I'll give you an example. During the 6.5 weeks of the operation earlier this year, our fighters were flying wingtip to wingtip on missions. Yeah. If you walked into the control center, you would see a whole room full of men and women, all military, sitting at their control centers, shoulder to shoulder. You would have to look at their shoulder patches to see their flags to determine who's the Israeli, who's the American. The relationship is just that close.
Yeah, amazing. I don't think we've seen anything like that with a U.S. ally since the Brits during World War II, that kind of closeness and cooperation in a major military campaign. Just amazing, amazing to see. More with Ambassador Mike Huckabee after the break. His thoughts on these threats by New York City's Mayor Zoran Mamdani to arrest the Prime Minister of Israel if he visits New York. More on that with the ambassador, much more after the break. Don't move. Welcome back to Stack Back tonight. We're talking to the United States Ambassador to Israel, the one and only Ambassador Mike Huckabee. Ambassador, New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani is once again targeting Prime Minister Netanyahu. Take a look.
My administration has reviewed every avenue available under applicable law to determine whether New York City could execute the International Criminal Court's arrest warrant if Benjamin Netanyahu came here. It is clear that we do not have the independent legal authority to enforce this warrant. The federal government, however, does, and I call on them to join the ICC and execute this warrant. And I want to be equally clear.
That ain't gonna
Benjamin
happen.
Netanyahu is not welcome in New York City, nor is any other war criminal at large.
Ambassador Mamdani now kind of backtracking, but still, again, putting out this video yesterday threatening the Prime Minister. Madness right now, needless to say, in our largest city and financial capital here in America. What do you make of Mamdani and these continued threats against the Prime Minister? And thank God President Trump has stood up for Prime Minister Netanyahu and said, not on my watch, it's not happening.
Well, it's not happening for a number of reasons, and sometimes you wonder, is he just that ignorant, or is he just that arrogant? And I'm not sure that it matters, but his Jew hatred is something to behold, but it's also something to repudiate. First of all, he at least admits he has no authority whatsoever to arrest anybody. He didn't even have the authority to represent somebody jumping the turnstile at a subway station, much less the elected leader of a free country that happens to be America's closest ally and partner. Secondly, we're not a part of the ICC for a good reason. It's an absolute joke. The president hates it.
Kangaroo
Secretary
court.
Rubio has spoken out repeatedly about how that the ICC is basically an exercise in lawfare where you try to go after your political enemies. Mamdani's not going to do anything to Benjamin Netanyahu. If everything else he thought he could do, does he not understand that the Prime Minister of Israel, if he comes to New York, has diplomatic immunity and he's untouchable? All of it is ridiculous. But he's stirring up this far-left, crazy Marxist base of his and making people think that he's going to be tough on the Jews and he's really going to go after the Prime Minister of Israel. And what, if anything, needs to happen, if somebody's going to be arrested, it ought to be Mamdani for stirring up incitement that could lead to just unprovoked violence toward Jewish people in New York.
Yeah, well said, Ambassador. He has become the face, really, Mamdani, of this strange alliance between socialists and outright communists here in America and radical Islamists. And they're gaining traction. They're actually winning elections, and some of them will stand in the midterm elections in November. And you mentioned it, Ambassador. It seems like a current that runs through this very strongly is rampant anti-Semitism and anti-Israel sentiment. What's the view in Israel of that, of this turn, the radical left and the Democrat Party really embracing these people?
I think the Israeli population is generally just in shock. Americans have always been so supportive, and especially among evangelical Christian believers, as they should be. We're biblical people. And if you believe the Bible, then you're going to be supportive of Israel because you don't have a choice. That's what Genesis 12 makes very clear. So I think there's an anxiety about why is this happening? But I look at this not so much in geopolitical terms. There's certainly some aspect of it. But Eric, this is a spiritual battle.
Yeah.
And I hope that people understand that no matter what the politics of America or any other nation are, This level of irrational hatred toward Israel as a nation and the Jewish people as a people is really a part of a spiritual war between good and evil. Those who reject God, who reject his word, who reject his revelation, who reject his choice of the Jewish people 3,800 years ago, are now rejecting the idea that God's promise is true and is to be followed.
Yeah.
That's disturbing. And it's really disturbing, Eric, when you start seeing it take hold among younger people in what should be Bible-believing, Bible-preaching evangelical churches.
Yeah, no doubt. It's like a collective madness has overcome truly a spiritual root to this. And I think of the Tucker Carlson wings, so-called, of what used to be the right. I don't know where they are now, but you think of them as well, and this pile-on Israel, not only Israel, but the Jewish people writ large. And Ambassador, you've spoken about this, the debt that America, that the United States, that every Christian owes to the Jewish people. Can you remind us real quick, remind our viewers real quick, what that debt is and why it is so important, especially now?
Well, we got to remember that our Christian faith is built upon the foundation of Judaism. We are the people also of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the people of both the Old and the New Testament. Our Messiah, Jesus, was Jewish. The early church, they were all Jewish. And it was upon the Judeo-Christian foundation that Western civilization came about, that respected the sanctity of the individual, that elevated the freedom of the soul, but also the personal responsibility to God that comes with that. It was on that foundation that America was born. A few weeks ago, a lot of people got mad at me because I said that if there had never been an Israel, there never would have been a United States. I stand by my quote. More biblical references in our founders than any other reference to any other book or any other cause. It almost was that the national seal was the parting of the Red Sea. John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, all used biblical references, even if they were not flaming Christians, but they understood where our foundations came from. They came from the Bible. And so when people don't understand that, they'll never really get it, what America is, what it's supposed to be, and what it's supposed to continue to be.
Wise words from America's top diplomat in Israel, Ambassador Mike Huckabee. Ambassador, this was great breakdown. We appreciate it. You're doing an incredible job for our country. We appreciate all you're doing. God bless you. We'll see you again soon. Ambassador Mike Huckabee, thanks again. Well, coming up, my final thoughts. Stick around. Welcome back to Stack Back tonight. Great conversation with Ambassador Mike Huckabee. And folks, as we wrap up, look, he talked about the importance of Israel, the Jewish people, in our faith as followers of Jesus. At the end of the day, I think of Psalm 122, verse 6. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May those who love you prosper. That is a biblical mandate. That's a city where Ambassador Huckabee joined us from tonight. And that's a city where Jesus will return one day and lay down his foot in Jerusalem. So, great conversation with the ambassador. And tomorrow night, guess what? The former ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, is with us, adding more great breakdowns and analysis on the situation over there in the Middle East and why it impacts you right here in America. Until then, God bless you. And we'll see you soon.